the closed model theories. So we have the theories being divided into two types, closed model theories and open model theories. So the closed model theories considers the organization as a structure, while the open model theories consider the organization as a process and a behavior. So we have three types of closed model theories, that is scientific management, Weber's bureaucracy, and the classical organizational theories. And MP Follett theories are considered to be the transitional theories, a transition from the closed model to the open model. So based on that approach, overall, the closed model theories would focus on certain things, like treating the organization as a structure and treating the people are merely as cog in the machine. And focus on rules and regulations and emphasis will be there on the principles of building an organization. So, and treating the man, the worker, as economic man. So there is nothing wrong in treating these people, considering these dimensions. Why there is nothing wrong is because productivity and profitability of the organization also depends on these things. Treating the people as human beings, treating the worker as a human being comes later in the open model theories. So there was not, these theories were not failures, because these closed model theories, including scientific management, then bureaucracy of Weber, and classical organizational theory. So all these three would be considered as a classical school of thought. The classical school of thought. The classical school of thought indicates that the scholastic elements related to the classical approach. So in 2022 there was a question regarding the classical school of thought. The classical theory provides the foundation for the modern organizational theories. Comment, there was a question in 2022 paper. Classical theory provides the foundation for the modern organizational theories. So because all these modern organizational theories of post 1950s, they were all taking the cue from the classical theories only, classical school of thought only. Because without building the organizational structure, you cannot talk about the behavior of the people, you cannot talk about the process of the people, the process of the organizations. So with this dimension, with this background, we need to understand how these closed model theories and how the questions on the closed model theories will be asked. And so these theories, apart from their basic theoretical aspect, should be studied from the approach to the study would be understanding the context of each theory, that is the background in which the particular theory is being developed is the context. Suppose the scientific management theory. Scientific management theory was developed in America in the background of second industrial revolution. Just like we are at present in the 21st century, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So the first industrial revolution took place in Britain. Second industrial revolution took place in America. So in the context of in the background of the second industrial revolution, that scientific management theory was developed. Similarly, bureaucracy. Bureaucracy in the 19th century was developed in the context of political instability in Germany and other European countries. So Weber was writing the bureaucratic theory in the background of unstable conditions in Germany particularly and in Europe in general. So that was the context. And the classical theory. The classical theory is also known as the administrative management theory. So this administrative management theory was developed in the context of the Great Economic Depression in America during the 1929 and 31. The 1929-31 Great Economic Depression in USA was the factor responsible for the emergence of the classical theory or administrative management theory, because in the context of this Great Economic Depression, American president has constituted a committee known as the Brownlow Committee to suggest management improvement in the organizations to overcome the economic depression. And the prominent thinkers in the classical theory were Luther Gulick and Urwick. And these people, Gulick and Urwick, were also the members of this Brownlow Committee. And the recommendations of the Brownlow Committee, President's Committee on Administrative Management, this Brownlow Committee, Brownlow was the chairperson of the committee, and the committee was titled as President's Committee on Administrative Management. And the report of this committee came to be known as the classical theory and the principles of the classical administration and this administrative management. So thus the classical theory or administrative management theory was developed in the context of the Great Economic Depression. So behind every theory there was a crisis situation. A crisis was responsible for emergence of a theory. So this crisis is the context. Then you should understand the concept of the theory. So this concept tells about, it gives the solution to the existing problem. Whatever the crisis that was there behind which a theory is being developed. And the theory is being developed to overcome that issue. So during the Industrial Revolution, Second Industrial Revolution, people shifted from agriculture to the industries. People were reluctant to work in the organization. Workers were not doing the better jobs. They are not doing good work. So to make the workers do the good work, to make the management to encourage and motivate the employees, scientific management has come up with several solutions. So therefore, concept of the theory tells about what is scientific management and what are the principles of scientific management. And if you look at the bureaucracy also, what is bureaucracy and the theories and the features of the bureaucracy. Then regarding the concept of the classical theory, the same thing. What is the classical theory, meaning of the classical theory, features of the classical theory. So these dimensions have to be understood in the concept. The meaning, definition and the features are the principles. And a third dimension that we should keep in mind in understanding the theories is the consequences. So because no theory is meant for the library research. Every theory is having a application orientation. So under what conditions that the classical theory is different theories have been developed, and when it is applied as a solution to the existing crisis, what consequences have arisen? Suppose scientific management was developed in the context of low productivity in the industrial organization during the Second Industrial Revolution. And it has come up with several solutions, various principles of scientific management. And when it is applied, what are the consequences that have arisen? So the consequences will be both positive and negative, not merely the positive consequences. So scientific management, when the scientific management was actually implemented, what happened is that the productivity in the organizations was increasing, enhanced productivity. And the organizations like Ford Company have sold the Ford Company has sold its cars on a worldwide level. So that is a positive aspect. But negative aspect of this is, because of the extreme standardization of the work proceedings, the workers were working in the organizations were being treated as only the cogs in the machine. There was no humanistic treatment of the people. So there was an opposition to the scientific management. And even the Congress, that is the American Parliament, Congress has constituted a senatorial committee, a committee to inquire into the scientific management, whether to retain the scientific management principles or not to discontinue the scientific management. So that is the negative consequence. And same is the case with the bureaucracy. When bureaucracy was implemented, bureaucracy created a stable organization, because the bureaucracy was developed in the context of unstable political conditions in Germany. So when the bureaucracy has been implemented, it has created some kind of stability in the administration, created a stability in the society. Fundamentally, bureaucracy is a social institution, not an administrative institution. A social institution that was elevated to be an administrative organization. So this has created a established stability in the administrative system. And that is the consequence of the bureaucracy positively. But negative consequence of the bureaucracy is bureaucrats started exploiting the situation, resulting in delay in administration, because bureaucracy is fundamentally characterized by the implementation of the rules and regulations for the standardization process. So this bureaucracy, when it is executed, over implementation, over emphasis on the rules and regulation resulted in the red tapeism and ultimately the corruption. So that is the negative consequence. So positively, bureaucracy has helped to improve the stability in the society. Negatively, it resulted in the corruption and its consequences. And classical theory. So classical theory was proposed in the context of great economic depression in America and Europe in general. And when the classical theory principles were implemented, that has achieved some kind of administrative stability in the organizations. But negatively, even this classical theory has also resulted in treating the people as merely cogs in the machine, treating the worker as an economic man. Economic man is the one who is working only for the money and nothing else. So that is the negative consequence. And after understanding the consequences, then we need to know some contemporaneous in each theory. Contemporaneous is the 21st century dimension. So the 21st century dimension in these theories, the 21st century dimension is fundamentally characterized by the LPG and information and communication technology. How these two things, liberalization, privatization and globalization, have affected the organizational management, and information and communication technology has affected the organizational management. So suppose in the present second decade of the 21st century, we are in the second decade of the 21st century. So the second decade of the 21st century is characterized by new technologies within the ICT. So the new technologies are like artificial intelligence, robotics, mechatronics, a new dimension, further dimension is the mechatronics, that is application of both mechanics and electronics, together using them with the use of the internet technology, is a mechatronics. Then artificial intelligence, then machine learning, big data, they are all the new technologies that are being under the implementation, and even the 3D printing as well. How these new technologies are influencing the scientific management. So suppose the impact of the artificial intelligence on scientific management is now being treated as the scientific management or Taylorism 4.0. The Taylorism 4.0 means fourth industrial revolution impact on the scientific management, because whatever the ideas that were there in the scientific management are further continued. So as I told you in the beginning, though these characteristics of the closed model theories are negatively construed, but there is nothing wrong with them. Therefore, scientific management continued to exist even after a century. Because in the year 1912, the scientific management has reached its peak level. And when it reached its peak in 1912, every organization in the world, particularly in Europe and America, were implementing the principles of scientific management at its peak level. So since 1912 to today, we are more than 100 years. And it means it is continuing to exist with the new dimensions and new adaptations. And artificial intelligence is the new adaptation of the scientific management. That's all. Contemporary adaptation of the scientific management. Similarly, we can also think from the same perspective in the bureaucracy also. The bureaucracy is also intended to achieve standardization and stability in the administration. The same standardization and stability in administration were further achieved by the machine learning. Because when you are programming a robot, what you are doing is you are stabilizing the things. You are reducing the predictability. You are enhancing the predictability. And you are also trying to mechanize the systems, administrative systems. This will be helpful to achieve Weber's ideal bureaucratic vision. Not merely the bureaucracy, it is the ideal bureaucracy. What is that ideal bureaucracy? How Weber imagined the bureaucratic system as an ideal model that is to be based on the absolute rules and regulations. Human being can be bribed, but a machine cannot be bribed. If you replace the human being with the machine, the corruption in the administration will be minimized. But however, of course, the humanitarian orientation in the administration does not exist when you are making the administration more and more machine learned. Suppose the present administrative system is based on the machine learning only. Suppose in Andhra Pradesh, the real-time governance is an example of the application of technology in the administration. And in Telangana, every government website is operating through the blockchain technology. And today we are having the administration in our hands, not merely at the doorsteps of the people. Earlier, in the earlier decade, people were talking about the bringing administration to the doorsteps of the people. But today we are having the administration in our hands only through the mobile phones. In Telangana, every government department is having a mobile application. And these mobile apps are standardizing the procedures. And when the mobile apps are standardizing the procedures, it has become easy for the people to access the administrative system, administrative benefits. You don't have to visit an administrative office. If you happen to visit the administrative office, you have to face the wrath of the bureaucrats. You have to face the corruption from the bureaucracy. You will be ill-treated by the bureaucrats. You will be made to wait for the bureaucrat for 2 or 3 hours to meet him if you have any grievance to be redressed. But all those things will not be there in the technology-oriented administration. Because if you have to pay a current bill, a power bill, you just have to spend only 2 minutes to pay the power bill through the mobile application. Even if you have to take any license, like driving license, if you have to register your vehicle, Telangana government is having its own mobile application to provide all these things in a procedural way. So that has drastically reduced the corruption process. Even if you have to register your land, you have to visit the Dharani portal. That is another example how the corruption in the administration with reference to the revenue department has been reduced. Dharani portal is the biggest example. Everything is standardized through the technology usage. So that's how impact of the information technology and the bureaucracy is also visible today. And impact of the information technology and the classical theory. That is the administrative management. So today, every administrative decision is based on the technology only. Every administrative decision which is supported by the technology, not merely the technology, of course. Suppose we have the big organizations which are taking the decisions based on the big data analysis. A manager is taking the decisions related to resource management, human resources, or financial resources only based on the data analytics. So this decision support system, this process is called as a DSS, the decision support system. So what is this decision support system? A manager taking the decisions based on the support given by a computer system. Analyzed, the computer system which is having the capacity to analyze a huge data and helping the manager to take the decision. Because we cannot make any decision, a manager cannot take a decision without having adequate information. Inputs of information is necessary. So this, so far decision making by the human being is characterized by the limited data and limited data analysis. Because human brain is having limited capacity to analyze the things. Whereas a machine, through the machine learning, can able to analyze trillions of data, trillions of permutations and combinations in making a decision. So that is how classical theory, which is also called the administrative management theory, will be helped by the decision support system, which is characterized, which is again a part of the information technology of the contemporary big data analytics. So these are the things that has to be kept in mind. And if you look at the question papers for the past 10 years, every question in the theories is characterized by any one of those 4 dimensions only. Beyond those 4 dimensions, examiner is not giving any question. So even 2022 question paper has a question on the classical theory. And that question on the classical theory is connected with what? That the classical theory provides the foundation for the modern organizational theories comment. So that is related to the concept and the consequences. Concept and the consequences. So the modern organizational theories that were developed in the post-1950s. Don't assume that the modern organizational theories are of 21st century. In the administrative thinking, modern organizational theories are those theories which were developed after 1950s till the 1980s. After the 1980s, the theories, whatever the theories that were developed, are known as the post-modern theories. Modern theories are the theories that were developed during the period between 1950 to 80s. Post-modern theories are the theories that were developed since 1990s. So keeping those things in mind, you are supposed to answer the questions. So if you look at the question paper I have given, what is the first question? Explain the suitability of scientific management to the global order. Comment. So this suitability of the contemporary scientific management to the global order. What is this global order? Is the key word here. And where you have to think from this 4C approach. Last C is talking about the LPG, impact of LPG on these theories. So what is the G stands for LPG, liberalization, privatization and the globalization. So this global order is associated with that. So where you have to talk about scientific management having no limits at all. No limits. What kind of limits that the scientific management is not having is territorial limits, cultural limitations or continental limitations, time limitations. Territorial limits means limitations based on the geographical area. This fundamentally scientific management was developed in America, in the North American continent, whereas today scientific management is adopted across all the continents in the world. No country, no continent is free from the implementation of the scientific management. Then there are cultural limitations are also broken by the scientific management. Scientific management was fundamentally capitalist culture, was developed in the capitalist culture, whereas it was also adopted by the communist cultures in USSR. And in USSR, it was Lenin who has implemented the scientific management. Lenin, when I am talking about Lenin because Lenin was the staunch follower of the communism. And a pure communist, Lenin has also adopted this capitalist ideology. So there are no cultural barriers. There are no continental barriers. And there are no time limitations. The theory that was developed during in the 1912 is continued to exist even today also. So over a period of 100 years, over a period of century, that the scientific management is continued to exist today. So in the introduction, you should talk about the aspect that scientific management has no limitations at all. Neither territorial, continental, cultural or time-oriented limitations. And it should also write a sentence saying that it is still relevant in the context of organizations going global with the use of the technology. Organizations are going global because today no organization is a local organization with the adoption of the technology. So suppose even a pawn shop, a tea shop is also going global with the use of the technologies, with the application of the mobile apps. So the local flavors are going global because of the use of the technologies. And anyway, there are mega organizations which are having their global presence. Mega organizations like the Microsoft or Amazon. So such kind of organizations, or Google. So such kind of mega organizations are anyway having its global presence. Smaller organizations are also having their global presence. And this is made possible with the use of the technology. So in the introduction, what we are supposed to write is, scientific management has no limits and it is still having its relevance. So therefore, with the use of the technology, scientific management is having its presence at the global level. Where you are explaining the meaning of the question in the introduction. And in the main body, you should talk about the reflections of the efficiency and economy, which are the fundamental elements of the scientific management in the global order. Because efficiency and economy are the hallmark of scientific management. Because scientific management was intended to reduce the cost of production and enhance the productivity. Reducing the cost of production on one hand, enhancing the productivity on the other hand, meaning in simple terms, efficiency and economy. This efficiency and economy are the reflections of the present global order also. In what way that these efficiency and economy have been adopted in the scientific management principles? One is new public management, in the form of new public management. New public management is also known as a neo-Taylorism. So scientific management is fundamentally meant for the private organizations. New public management is meant for the government organizations. Adoption of the private managerial techniques in the public sector is the new public management. Then boundaryless organizations. Organizations that are having no bounds. How organizations have no bounds at all? Organizations are not having any boundaries because organizations are using the technologies. There are no frontier boundaries, or there are no boundaries between the superior and the subordinate. Because in the present day organizations, modern organizations, people do not treat their superiors as boss. Even the boss will not expect the subordinate to treat him as a superior officer. So there is a egalitarianism and principles of equality in the organizations. So the boundaries between the superior and the subordinate are eliminated. Boundaries between customer and organization is also eliminated. Because once upon a time, when there is an organization, there is a clear-cut division between the organization and the people. Even if you happen to visit a kirana shop, there was a boundary line between the customer and the seller. A table was existing between that. So whatever the commodity he was asking for will be provided by the seller, and the buyer will have to accept whatever is being sold. But in the boundaryless organization, you can check the quality of the commodity. You can go inside the organization, check the quality of the commodity. If you like it, you can buy it. And if you are buying online, suppose if you are buying in the online system, even if you have no personal experience of the commodity that you are buying, after getting the commodity, you can personally check it, and if you don't like it, you can return the commodity. So that is where the boundary between the organization and the consumer is also eliminated. There are no territorial boundaries for the organizations. Across the global level, the organizations are operating. And this kind of nature of organization is called as a boundaryless organization. And there is a total quality management. Another organization, global order of scientific management is a total quality management. The total quality management aspect is being developed first in Japan. So emphasizing the quality management with reference to human resources, financial resources, material resources, and everything. Equipment management, everything. And there is another dimension called Six Sigma. The Six Sigma is another aspect of the scientific management in the global order, which is again an elaboration of efficiency, economy, and effectiveness. It has added a third E to the scientific management. Efficiency, economy are the hallmark of the scientific management. Six Sigma added effectiveness as an additional E. And now we have another dimension called digital Taylorism. Digital Taylorism is adoption of the scientific management in the information technology. And apart from the digital terrorism, we also have new technologies, that is multi-technologies. Because the present day organizations and whatever the commodities that are being manufactured are not merely produced with a mono technology. They are produced with the multi-technologies. They are operatable with the multi-technologies. So suppose if you are making a robo, the purpose of the robo is to achieve efficiency, economy and effectiveness in getting the things done. And this robo is not merely a machine. It is having the capacity to learn, meaning certain kind of bio orientation is also introduced in the robos. Robos are learning. Robos are today having the emotions, and they are also showing the sentiments. So, because when you are adopting a robo in the military, it cannot operate only mechanically. It has to have some emotional elements, and it should have even the sentiments. The one single most important sentiment that the robo should have is the patriotism. So, once upon a time, we don't even think about a robo showing the patriotism. But today it is possible with the new technologies being adopted into the robotic systems. So, that is how new technologies are adopted with the multiple technologies, multi-layered technologies. And suppose another thing, in the day-to-day life, we use the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is another example of the new technologies, which is operated by the multiple technologies. It has mechanics, it has electronics, and it is also having information technology orientation, which is operated something like a refrigerator or a washing machine or a stove that we are using in the kitchen. All these instruments in the home technologies are operated through the Internet of Things. So these things are all will be the examples of, they're all the examples of the new technologies and adoption of the scientific management into the new technologies. The objective of scientific management is efficiency and economy. The same aspect is further improved with the use of the new technologies, with the perfection and the perfect productivity, reducing the production expenditure. All these things will enhance the application of the scientific management at the global order. So these references would be adequate. When you are writing an answer in the 10 marks question, references about new public management, boundaryless organization, Six Sigma, total quality management, digital terrorism, new technology management, the references about these things would be adequate to answer the question for 10 marks. So then you have to write about the impact of the globalization of scientific management. So the negative consequences. So far we discussed about the positive aspects. Now we should write about the negative aspects of it. Like with the more and more adoption of the technology in this through the scientific management, what happened? Many people have lost their jobs. That is, existing jobs have lost. Certain jobs are disappeared. And this is described as a destructive technology. And of course, new professions have emerged by destroying the existing professions. Because every time in the human history, when the new things are emerging, the existing things are getting destroyed. We are not using the same weapons or tools used by the ancient human being. The nature of the tools and the technology is being changed over a period of time. So there is nothing serious about it. Whenever a new job, existing job is lost, a new job is emerging. So that is the adaptability. And so there is also a situation of financial crisis, because with the use of the technology, the productivity has gone global. With the productivity going global, and there is a division of labor, division of production, extreme level. In 1920s, scientific management was criticized for extreme division of work within the same organization. If a car is being manufactured at Ford company, the entire car is not being manufactured in the same company. Every bolt is manufactured in a different industry. Every bolt fitted to a car. And worker was not even knowing for which ultimate product he was making the bolt. He was just knowing only that he is making the bolt. But what is the purpose of the bolt? It is to fit it to a car. But the worker was not aware of it. So there is a distinction between the final product and the person who is working for it. So there is a separation of the worker from the final product. And today this has become more larger. Within the same organization, within the same state, within the same city, if the product, the spare part products are being separated, the people were worried. And today, the production has gone much more deliberately divided. And when it is gone much more deliberately divided, across the world, the companies are having their assembling units. The Apple company is an example for that. Apple company is manufacturing its products in China. And not only China, today after the Ukraine war and after the 2020 global crisis, what happened? The Apple company is establishing its units not only in China but also across various other parts of the country, other parts of the world. And Foxconn is another example, which is manufacturing the necessary ingredients required for any car or any mobile phone or any other things. So this is where what happened is, because of this extreme division of work, extreme division of the products across the global level, supply chain system is being affected when there was a crisis. When the supply chain system was affected, it has resulted in a financial crisis. European Union and America are experiencing this financial crisis because of the over-dependency on the supply chain system. So these are all the negative consequences of the scientific management going global. Extreme production resulting in supply chain crisis, further resulting in overall a global financial crisis, not merely the financial crisis confined to a particular country. So in the conclusion, what you should say is, the scientific management is not merely a theory, it's a movement. That should be the conclusion. It is not merely a theory. It is not developed only for the sake of library research. It is being adopted as a movement. Hence it is described as a scientific management movement, not scientific management theory. So as a movement, it is not having any limitations, neither time limitations nor limitations on the basis of global, the geographical limitations or any other limitations for that matter. So that should be the answer for this. Then second question, if you look at the second question, how do you envisage the application of the Weber's bureaucracy to the requirements of the virtual organizations like Uber and the QSR? Uber is a cab service company without having any single cab also. And QSR is quick service restaurants. Quick service restaurants like, the examples being Zomato and the Swiggies are the quick service restaurants without having any restaurant of its own. Neither Zomato nor Swiggy is having any restaurant in it at all. It is not cooking anything at all. But these organizations are operating. In fact, Uber or Ola or the Swiggy, they are only software companies, not providing any product, any physical product, only software solution they are providing. So in the context of these are known as the virtual organizations. The organization that seems to exist but does not exist actually. So how do you envisage the application of Weber's bureaucracy to the requirements of these virtual organizations? So because Weber's bureaucracy is based on the rules and regulations. These quick service restaurants and the Uber virtual organizations, they will operate beyond the rules and regulations. And how this Weber's bureaucracy would fulfill the requirements of these organizations, modern organizations, which are using the technology. And I am saying that they are the software companies, which means that they are using the technology and creating a coordination between the service provider and service recipient. So in the introduction, you should talk about what is Weber's bureaucracy. Meaning of the Weber's bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, as assumed by Weber, is an organization characterized by the rules and regulations. while virtual organizations are those organizations which seems to exist but does not exist in reality. They does not exist in reality means they will not produce those things which we assume that those organizations are producing. Amazon is another example of the virtual organization. So it has millions of products, but it is not manufacturing any product. And same is the case with any other online e-commerce website, e-commerce mobile application are all examples of the virtual organizations. So they either outsource the products or they accept the outsource. That's all. So the meanings of the Weber's bureaucracy and the virtual organization should be mentioned in the introduction. And in the main body, you should write about the Weber's bureaucracy, characteristic of the Weber's bureaucracy. Weber's bureaucracy is characterized by rules, regulations, the documentation, neutrality, hierarchy, anonymity, and division of labor. They are the features of the Weber's bureaucracy. So rules is the primary character. Those rules are documented. That is, documentation is the second character. And the bureaucrat operates on the principles of neutrality. That is neutral with reference to the politics. He will not be having any kind of political affiliations. And hierarchy, principle of hierarchy, they are operating. The superior subordinate differentiation. Then anonymity. A bureaucrat will be working from behind the curtain, not in front of the screen. And it will be operating on a division of labor. Work is vertically divided between superior and subordinate and horizontally divided among the same level of employees. And the bureaucrat is permanently appointed on a permanent basis. When I am saying appointed, he is not elected like a politician. His permanent means he is not temporary like a political executive. So then you have to talk about the virtual organizations. Virtual organizations are those which do not exist in reality, but only in the clouds. They are cloud operated organizations. So in the clouds, in the sense, in the e-commerce systems. So Weber's bureaucracy is not suitable to their needs. That is where you have to talk about the compatibility between the two. The third aspect you have to talk about is incompatibility between Weber's bureaucracy and the virtual organizations, because there is no one best way to manage the organizations in the global conditions. Whereas Weber's bureaucracy insists on one best way to manage the organization. What is the one best way to manage the organization for Weber? Standardization of rules and regulations through the documents. But global organizations, virtual organizations will not operate on the principles of one best way, because in the contemporary conditions of the competition, there is no possibility to adopt a single best way to manage the organizations in the global conditions, because of the rapid change replete with the surprises. Rapid changes repleted with the surprises. Nobody would thought of certain organization getting collapsed before 2020. So because before 2020 everything seems to be happy and organizations were operating at its peak level. 2020 came and the pandemic has arisen and there was a total lockdown of the global level. So this is a rapid change, repleted with the surprises. Nobody would be thinking about fall of American economy, fall of European economy. But that has happened with the another surprising change that has come out of the Russia-Ukraine war. The Russia-Ukraine war has also disturbed the total global business. So therefore, in the global conditions, in the globalization situation, which is characterized by the rapid change, repleted with the surprises, no organization can follow similar style of management all the time. There should be a dynamic style of management, need to be adaptable according to the changing circumstances, which is different from the Weber's bureaucracy. Weber's bureaucracy is characterized by the stability, predictability, whereas the contemporary society, contemporary global order is unpredictable. Secondly, there is no permanent employment for the organizations. Right? Whereas Weber's bureaucracy is characterized by the permanent employment. But whereas the virtual organizations will not depend on the permanent employment. What is the present style of employment in the virtual organization is gig workers. So those who provide the service for a QSR, the one who is bringing the food from the Swiggy to the home, is temporarily offering his service on outsourcing base, is a gig worker. So the gig employment has become a large scale employment today. And these organizations will operate in a least documentation. Whereas Weber wanted everything to be in a documented way. Virtual organizations are characterized by the least documentation. Then these virtual organizations are characterized by the absence of a proper hierarchy in a digital technology based organizations. There is no proper hierarchy. Only there will be a founder, and apart from the founder there will be investor, who may be an angel investor. Somebody else is invisible. And there is another professional service providers and gig workers. So you cannot find a proper kind of Weber's kind of bureaucratic kind of hierarchy in the administration of these virtual organizations. And they are characterized by the extreme anonymity, because you don't know who is actually selling the product. And there will be professionalism. So these are the characteristics of virtual organizations. Weber's bureaucracy is adaptive to the changing needs of the society. That should be the conclusion again. However rapid, however modern these organizations, virtual organizations may be, they are not free from the fundamental rules and regulations of constructing an organization, building an organization. All the basic principles of Weber's theory should be adaptable in the virtual organizations also, if they have to be properly managed. And the third question, if you look at the third question, scientific management was criticized by the workers for being exploited. But Taylor was in fact developing a socialist order. So two contradictions here. Taylor was criticized by the workers for being exploitative. Exploitation of the workers is a feature of capitalist organization. But the counter argument is also there in the statement, saying that but Taylor was in fact developing a socialist order, creating a socialist ideology in it. Therefore it was adopted by the communist country like Russia also. So in the introduction, what you should talk about is scientific management is an instrument of worker exploitation and a means to achieve socialism both. It was treated as a worker exploitation, as an instrument of worker exploitation, but actually it is a means to achieve the socialism as well, but in a different way. So in the starting lines, you should write about the background of the issue. What is the background of the issue? Scientific management was developed to promote maximum prosperity to the management, coupled with maximum prosperity of each and every worker. This is the overall ideology of the scientific management. Promoting maximum prosperity of the management, coupled with the maximum prosperity of each worker. So everybody should get benefited, because therefore worker is paid not in a routine manner, but worker is paid according to differential piece rate system. The more you work, the more you get. So however, Marxists have criticized it for exploiting the workers. Though it is insisting on prosperity of the worker also, Marxists, that is the communists, criticized that the scientific management was actually exploiting the workers. And scientific management is a combination of subtle brutality of the bourgeoisie exploitation and a number of its greatest scientific achievements. What is this? Brutality of the bourgeois exploitation. Bourgeois means capitalist exploitation. And also number of greatest scientific achievements which are helping to achieve the socialist order. That should be the introduction. And in the main body, you should write about how scientific management is exploiting the workers. The scientific management is exploiting the worker through differential piece rate system. That's the first thing. Second, through the process of standardization. Standardization is another element of exploiting the worker. Standardization of everything. And the third is the division of work. These are the elements of the exploitation. Extreme division of work makes the workers as a slave. As I told you already in the previous question, that the worker was not even aware of for what he is actually working for. So there is an extreme division between the final product and the worker. And the special committee, as I told you already in the earlier question, the House of Representatives has constituted a committee to inquire into the scientific management, whether it is relevant to the American economy or not. And this special committee of House of Representatives in USA said that scientific management gave the production managers a dangerously high level of uncontrolled power. Now, the production managers are the supervisors. Supervisors have extreme control over the production and the people who are actually producing the things. So, therefore, organizations are opposing the scientific management. However, we should also write about other side, second dimension. What is the second part of the question? How scientific management has created a socialist order. That should be the second dimension. The socialist order means creating a classless society. Equitable distribution of wealth among all the people. It should not be equal distribution of work, but equitable distribution of work. Equal distribution means, suppose if there are two children for a father, if he is having 1 crore property, he will equally distribute the property between the two children. 50 lakhs for one, 50 lakhs for one. Right from the childhood, the father will do the same thing. First child is given 1 chocolate, second child is also given 1 chocolate. There begins the equality of treatment. Equitability is different thing. Depending upon the capacity, depending upon the requirement, depending upon the ability, the people will be distributed the resources. So, suppose the worker will be given limited share of prosperity. Producer will be given additional prosperity sources. Because when an entrepreneur has initiated a company, he is risking everything, including his life, his money, and his family. Everything is being risked. So, the risk factor will award him more money. Whereas worker is contributing his share to the work product. So, accordingly, the worker will also be provided, depending upon the contribution to the productivity. So, Taylorism was developing a socialist order based on the equitable sharing of prosperity. So, Taylor never had any intention to exploit the worker because his intention was different. The only intention that the Taylor was having is increasing the productivity, not exploiting the worker. Secondly, Taylor's objectives were actually ensuring higher income and standard of life. Higher income to whom? The workers, because through the differential piece rate system, when you do more work, you will have more money. More money may not guarantee the happiness, but definitely it will reduce the conflicts in the family. Because one of the major source of conflict in the families is limited source of income. So you are contributing more source of income to the worker. That will reduce the family breakups. Conflict in the family and the family breakup ultimately will be minimized. You can fulfill your needs of your children and thereby improving the standard of life. Every one of us would like to improve the standard of life. So actually we will be communist only in our talks. When we talk, we think about the communism. We talk about the communism. But we will be capitalist in our thoughts. When we talk, we are communist. When we think, we are capitalist. Because everybody wanted to improve the standard of life. Nobody would be contributing to the society. Nobody would be serving the society. These are all only the ideological things. which will not be practically implementable. Tailored scientific management will be definitely helpful to improve the standard of life of the worker, because of which he can create, it can assure a happier home and a social life. That is the third thing you have to write. Taylorism has contributed to the happy lives and happy homes. And it has assured socially agreeable, healthy conditions of work. Then promoting justice through the elimination of the discrimination in the wages. So elimination of the discrimination in the wages in the sense, that is, if you are doing better work, you are getting better salary. That is the discrimination is eliminated. And equitable distribution of wealth. Not equal distribution of wealth, but equitable distribution of wealth. If you are contributing, if you are risking your things, you are an entrepreneur, you will be getting more wealth. If you are contributing only the labor, you will be getting the salary and the bonus. If you are contributing your mind-related job, so depending upon what you are sacrificing. So if you are a professional, if you are doing a mind-related job, if you are doing a creative work, you will not get the same salary as a class 4 employee. People will be thinking like if you are doing hard work, it is only a physical work. A physical labor will bring only the limited income. A mind-related labor will bring more income. And more professional than, more mind-related worker than the creative workers is the entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is establishing an organization. He is engaging the professionals. They are contributing creative work. And then there are, in the third level, manual workers also. The people, the person who has established the organization is more mentally matured than anybody else in the organization. Therefore, he has established the organization. The people in the middle level who consider themselves to be the creative people, doing the work with their mind, using their mind, they think that they are the extremely intelligent than anybody else. They are lesser than the entrepreneur in their mind capacity, because their mind capacity is limited only to one particular field. So, therefore, they are getting less income. And the people who are doing the manual job, they are getting further less income. Depending upon their nature of work, contribution to the job, they get the equitable distribution of wealth. Nature of work means whether you are doing the work physically or manually, and psychological use of your capacity to use the brain. And this is also, scientific management has also contributed to promote better industrial relations. What is industrial relation? Relation between the worker and the management. One of the principles of scientific management is mental revolution. There should be a psychological change, attitudinal change on part of the worker and the management. Instead of conflicting with each other, they have to work in tandem with each other. That will reduce the conflicts between the worker and the management. So this is what actually socialism will require. So these dimensions insist that scientific management contribute to this socialist order. So in the conclusion, what you should mention is, you should mention things supporting Taylor, saying that scientific management was misunderstood and misinterpreted as worker exploitative mechanism. But reality is, scientific management has created the socialist order. Therefore, Lenin and Trotsky have adopted the scientific management in USSR. Lenin and Trotsky were the staunch believers of socialism and communism. Even such people have implemented scientific management as Stakhanovite movement in USSR. That should be the conclusion. And the fourth question, administrative management theory was criticized for ignoring the human element in the organization. Classical theory was not oblivious, O-B-L-I-V-I-O-U-S, not obvious, it is oblivious of the human factor in the organizations. Analyze these statements. So, First statement is a different thing. Second statement, contrasting. Administrative management theory was criticized for ignoring the human element. And classical theory was not oblivious of the human factor. What is meant by the obliviousness? Unaware of. Lack of awareness is the oblivious. Not oblivious means very well aware of. Not unaware of means aware of something. Having knowledge of something is not oblivious. Analyze these two statements. That where you have to explain the statement 1 first and say statement 2 later in a sequence. So, first you have to explain how administrative management theory has ignored the human element, and later you have to focus on the human element in the classical theory. Fundamentally, all the closed model theories, including the classical theory, consider the people as cogs in the machine. Cog in the machine means a spare part in the machine. And treating the people as workers as the economic man, who is working only for the money, not for the social relations. So that is the fundamental character of the classical theory. But the second statement is saying that how classical theory is also aware of human element in the organization. So in the introduction, you should explain the background of the question, both the statements, background of both the statements. Like administrative management theory was developed in the consequence of the Great Economic Depression. That should be the Great Economic Depression, is the giving the background. And ignoring the human factor. However, it never had any such intentions. That should be the introduction. So the focus of the administrative management theory, in the main body you should write about the focus of the administrative management theory. What is the focus? One is principles. Various principles are developed like hierarchy, separation of powers, span of control, line and staff. Those principles are developed. Then structure of the organization with an emphasis on the rules and regulations, division of work, and secondly, with an overemphasis on these features, it ignored the human element, which given importance only to the standardization, the rules and regulations, predictability of the administration. Those things were given an overemphasis, and as a result, human element is being ignored. So there are certain trends which consider humans as insignificant in the administrative process. Like tendency to treat the human being as inert instrument, incapable of individual contribution based on the personal qualifications. And treating the personnel as static. People are being treated as static but not dynamic. Because if you give them certain work, they have to do the work as being directed, like a machine. That is the static nature of the people. And the motivational assumptions. Motivational assumptions are incomplete and inaccurate. Why they are incomplete? Because it is considering the human being only as an economic man, but not as a social and psychological man. And given the mechanistic treatment of the worker, mechanistic treatment of the worker means worker is being treated like a machine, like a cog in the machine in fact. That is the mechanistic treatment. And it supported the Rabel hypothesis. What is that Rabel hypothesis? A concept of economics being adopted into the administration. A Rabel hypothesis, which says that human being works only for the money, is the Rabel hypothesis. So this is the things which are emphasizing that the classical theory treated the people only as mechanistic and only criticized for ignoring the human element. But however, it has not ignored the human element in totality. If you closely look into the theory, administrative management theory, there are human dimensions. So you need to analyze the second statement. Humanitarian orientation in the classical theory. Because it suggested that every organizational principle is intended to humanistic requirements. Every organizational principle is required to humanistic requirements. What is that? Organizational principles are hierarchy, division of labor. They are all required because human being need to be disciplined. If the human being is not disciplined right from the beginning, If the human being is not disciplined, he will behave in his own ways that will not fulfill the requirements of the organizations. As a child, when you are born, if you are not disciplined, you will behave yourself. As a husband, suppose if you are not disciplined, your behavior will be out of control. As a student in the school, if you are not disciplined, you cannot learn anything properly. As a soldier in the military organization, if you are not disciplined, if you are not having the discipline, you will work for somebody else. Despite heavy discipline that is being implemented in the military, still some soldiers will fall prey to the enemies. So this is why the human being is to be disciplined based on the certain rules and regulations. So if you have to fit into the organization, there is need for incorporating certain rules and regulations. Similarly, according to various scholars, Fayol was not oblivious, ignorant about the human factor. Henry Fayol, one of the French engineer, who was one of the chief contributor to the classical theory, he was not ignorant of the human factor. Because for Henry Fayol, people are the essence of the organization. Employees are the essence of the organization. Without the employees, there is no question of sustaining the organization. So these dimensions, apart from those dimensions, organizational principles will make the organization employees to fit into the requirements of the organization. So from these observations, it is evident that the classical theories were aware of the human element in the organization. However, they took it into consideration only the rational behavior of the human beings. The lacuna could be reduced by behavioralists like Simon. So, one hand, they were criticized for ignoring the human element. But the close observation of the classical theory also highlights that they were not impractical to say that the human beings, without human beings, organization can survive. Then the fifth question, Follett's depersonalization of orders. Depersonalization of orders is not different from Taylor's mechanistic approach and Weber's idea of a detached bureaucratic spirit. So depersonalization of orders as being proposed by Follett is order should be given according to situation but not to the person. That is the depersonalization of orders. And it is said that it is not different from Taylor's mechanistic approach and Weber's detached bureaucratic spirit. Detached bureaucratic spirit means anonymity, neutrality. You have to follow the rules and regulations. We don't criticize following the rules and regulations. So where you have to, the hint of the answer is finding a similarity between Follett's depersonalization and Taylor and Weber. Then in the introduction you should write about Follett as the bridge between classical thinkers and the behavioral thinkers, humanistic behavioral thinkers. And in the main body, you should explain what is mechanistic approach. First, you have to explain about what is depersonalization of order. Then, second, you should explain about mechanistic approach of Taylor. Third, Weber's idea detached bureaucracy. So what is mechanistic approach in the Taylor's theory? That is treating the people as cog in the machine. Therefore, a good worker will only follow the orders of the management without any initiative. Because when a management is hiring you, the management will never expect you to question the management philosophy. Management expects the worker to be mechanically follow the orders of the management. That's all. If you question, you will not exist in the job. This is the minimum expectation of any management. That is the mechanistic orientation. Weber's detached bureaucratic spirit. What is this Weber's detached bureaucratic spirit? It is the rule orientation. Every employee has to work according to the rules and regulations. You should work according to the rules. If you have any creativity, show that creativity according to the rules, within the bounds. Suppose in the cricket, if you are a batsman and you are placed as in the opening, you cannot question the decision of the management saying that I will not go in the opening, I will go in the 10th position. You have to go according to the orders of the management in the first position. And if you have any creativity, you should show the creativity in your batting, that's all. Would you like to hit a helicopter shot, or you want to hit a jet shot? Whatever the shots you can choose. But you have to follow the overall decisions of the management. Similarly, no management will expect the worker to go beyond the rules and regulations. Within the specified role only you have to work. That is the Weber's detached bureaucratic spirit. How this is similar to Follett's depersonalization of order. Follett has only changed the terminology that is being selected. What Taylor is expecting the worker, do the work as being prescribed. What Weber is expecting the bureaucrat, do the work according to the rules. What Follett is expecting from the employees, in a different manner, that's all. But the ultimate objective is the same. So orders, ultimate objective of order is, according to Follett, making the employee obey the order. That is the ultimate objective. So for which the procedure is being prescribed in a different manner, whereby employee cannot deny the orders. Employee will not be in a position to deny the orders. Don't give the orders to the employee. She is saying, give the orders to the situation. Receive the orders from the situation. Ultimately, what the employee is doing is just accepting what the boss is saying. So all the three are having the same ideology, making the worker accept the job. But the situations are different in which these three people have developed this theories. Taylor was giving this mechanistic approach for the class 4 employees, industrial level employees. Weber was talking about the deep impersonality, detachment from the personal order, for the bureaucratic organization, that is in the middle management. Follett's ideas are relevant to these creative jobs, professional jobs. Someone like a software employee. A software employee will not take the orders as being given to a class 4 employee. A software employee who is a creative person in his own field would accept the commands. And often we ridicule these people, saying that they are working like the class 4 employees. So they are not ultimately denying, only the procedure of giving the orders is changing. So for different jobs they were talking about these managerial styles. For class 4 manufacturing level jobs, the style of giving orders is different by the scientific management. For a bureaucrat middle management jobs, Weber has its own theory of giving the orders. And MP Follett was talking about giving orders to the employees who are in the creative field. But all of them, all the three people were talking about making the employees do the job, that's all. And the sixth question, because powerful political, social, economic and technological forces underlie the bureaucracy, it follows that a bureaucracy has power. But the power of the bureaucracy comes clothed in clouds, contained in fog, cloaked in the mist. Comment. So the meaning of this statement, the last statement, that is, the power of the bureaucracy comes clothed in cloud, contained in fog, and cloaked in the mist. The meaning of this statement is, bureaucratic power is invisible. Invisibility of the bureaucratic power. First statement, because of the powerful political, social, economic and technological forces underlie the bureaucracy, it follows that a bureaucracy has a power. The meaning of this first statement is, bureaucracy is powerful. And second statement is saying that power is invisible. So, this statement is taken from Public Administration and Public Policy, Nicholas Henry. So, the hint of the answer is rise of bureaucracy and the power of the bureaucracy. How the character of the bureaucracy is. Power of the bureaucratic character. So, where you have to talk about bureaucracy emerges and grows out of the political, social, economic and technological factors. So therefore, even after 100 years of the concept of bureaucracy being proposed by Weber, it still continued to hold the sway despite the penetration of technologies. Despite whatever the technology is penetrating into the system, bureaucracy is not eliminated. Though various scholars have talked about the alternative to the bureaucracy, bureaucracy got not eliminated. So therefore it has invisible power. That should be the introduction. Bureaucracy has the power, but that power is invisible. So various factors contributing to this power. Main body should contain the provisions for factors contributing to this power. Like social factors. Social factors are equitable distribution of resources among the conflicting pressures. Economic factors, like displacement effect. This is called as the displacement effect. Then politico-technological factors. Bureaucrats are hired to by the specialists in the service of delivery of service. Political factor is democracy. Democracy is the political factor. Then technological factor is the adoption of the new technologies. These factors contributed to the increasing power of the bureaucracy. Then you should talk about types of powers of the bureaucracy. There are 4 types of the powers of the bureaucracy. 4 types of powers, like staying power. Staying power means bureaucracy is permanent. Bureaucrat is permanent. Therefore, we have been seeing that bureaucracy existing for the past more than 100 years. Then political power. Bureaucracy has the political power. Like policy making power. What is policy making power? Though we say that according to Woodrow Wilson, bureaucrats will be policy executors. Policy will be made by the political executive. But political executive also depending upon the bureaucrat to make the policies. So actually the policies are made by the bureaucrat, implemented by the bureaucrat. That is the political power. Then stopping power. What is stopping power? Ability to stop anything from happen. If the bureaucrat thinks to do, he will do. Otherwise he can stop. The stopping power is to ability to stop anything. The contradictory is doing power. Doing power means ability to do anything if he wish to do. If he don't have the wish to do, he will have the power to stop. If he has the wish to do, he will do the power. That is the doing power. And there is another power called noetic power. Noetic power means power of knowledge. Knowledge management. Managing everything. The knowledge coming from the awareness of the rules and regulations. The power of knowledge of the rules and regulations. So these powers are making the bureaucrat despotic and monster. Bureaucrat is behaving like a monster. And because of this, it was also predicted that bureaucrat will become a dinosaur. Bureaucracy will become a dinosaur and it will be replaced with dinosaurs are extinguished. And those dinosaurs will be replaced with the more adaptive, smaller organizations. So in the conclusion, what you should say is knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Bureaucrats have both. Both means both knowledge and the consequent power coming of the knowledge. And the 7th question is, it is often argued that Weber's bureaucracy is not suitable to the needs of the 21st century. However, no alternative could root out the bureaucracy. So as I told you that bureaucracy will be replaced with more adaptive organizations. So that aspect is being insisted in this question. No organization could root out the bureaucracy. So first statement is saying bureaucracy is not required suitable to the needs of the 21st century. So therefore, second statement, it will be replaced with the alternative organizations. So in the introduction, you should talk about Warren Bennis. Warren Bennis predicted the death of the bureaucracy. Warren Bennis predicted the death of the bureaucracy because it is not fit for the needs of the 21st century. So, though Weber claimed bureaucracy as a permanent institution, it would be replaced with the new organizations. It will extinguish. Bureaucracy will be extinguished and new organizations will emerge. Because bureaucracy could not resolve the challenges of the 21st century. It is not suited to the 21st century because 21st century has brought certain new challenges. So list out the challenges. What are the challenges of the 21st century? Like globalization is a challenge. Environmental degradation is another challenge. Then growing social violence at the global level. Social violence arising out of the religion. Religious violence which is being termed as the Islamic terrorism or any other terrorism. And emergence of the global terrorism. Challenges posed by the information technology. And global economic crisis. And you can give the examples of pandemic. Pandemic challenges could not be resolved by the bureaucracy. Everything had to be shut down. Bureaucracy could not sustain the administration. So in this context, bureaucracy is found to be responsible for the problems of 21st century and it failed to resolve those problems. And so therefore, several alternative forms of organizations are proposed. What are the alternative forms of organization? Which are smaller and accommodative, unlike the bureaucracy. Because bureaucracy is bigger, like a dinosaur. Bureaucracy is not accommodative because of the rigid rules and regulations. While these alternative organizations are micro level smaller. So you should give the list of examples for this alternative organizations. Like as in the first question we discussed about virtual organizations. Similarly, the temporary work systems. A temporary work system is like a project organization. A project organization, once a project is finished, that will be terminated. And it will find out a new project. Boundaryless organizations. As I told you that one of the questions is boundaryless organization. And there are projects, matrix. There are the various examples, matrix organization, project-based organization. So then you have to list out the features of those organizations. These organizations are flexible, time-oriented, and characterized by the impermanency. Impermanency means temporary. Once the project over, project terminated. That is the impermanency. Humanitarian. And they follow bottom-up management style. Not top-down management style, bottom-up management style. And spontaneity is the feature because of their dynamic character of the 21st century. 21st century is a dynamic nature. So therefore they have to spontaneously they have to change their managerial styles, management styles. So these are the new dimensions. In the conclusion, what you should say is, despite the propositions for the alternatives, bureaucracy has not come to an end. Why bureaucracy has not come to an end? Because without bureaucratic rules, no organization can survive. Though it is a temporary system, project based, it has to follow the bureaucratic rules. Next, what is Taylorism 4.0? Explain how artificial intelligence is transforming the knowledge at work. So Taylorism 4.0, first you have to write the meaning, then explain how artificial intelligence transforming the knowledge work. So this ideas of knowledge worker, knowledge work, knowledge society, they were all proposed by Peter Drucker in 1959. Even the concept of artificial intelligence, the term artificial intelligence came into existence in 1960-61. Now they are becoming popular. Particularly the knowledge society has become popular in 2005, after 2005, proposed by Peter Drucker, who is known as the management guru. Then artificial intelligence is becoming popular after 2010s. So the ideas were proposed in the 1950s and 60s only. And application of this artificial intelligence to the scientific management is the Taylorism 4.0. How you adopt artificial intelligence into the scientific management. Scientific management as a theory emphasizes predictability, efficiency and economy. Right. Artificial intelligence has contributed to effectiveness, more predictability, more precision. Precision management is artificial intelligence with least intervention of the human being. So the scientific management insists on rule-oriented administration, principle-based management, lean management. Lean management means reducing the cost of production, including the cost of human resources, cost of material resources, cost of financial resources. They have to be reduced. And a single word for reducing all these things is known as the lean management. And multi-skilling and problem solving among the workers, continuity of optimization and eliminating the wastage. So, the concept of knowledge management. The concept of knowledge management is the data management. Knowledge is related to the data, and knowledge management is the data management. What is data management? That is collecting the data, storing the data, then classification of the data, analyzing the data, and disseminating the data according to the requirements, using the data. So the classified data, in simple, classification of the data and the classified data is the data management. When the data is classified, it becomes information. When it is used and applied, it becomes knowledge. So the overall knowledge management is associated with the data management. Therefore, the 21st century employees are known as the knowledge workers, not merely the software employee or class 4 employee. They are known as the knowledge workers. So the people responsible in these organizations, knowledge organizations, are responsible to transform the information into the knowledge. First you get the data in a raw format. That will be transformed into information. But information by itself is not adequate. That has to be used. So suppose if you got the data about a spy, if the government has got the data about a spy, by analyzing this data, it has got the information. Having the information about the whereabouts of a spy is not adequate. What you have to do with the information, it has to be converted into the knowledge to catch hold of that spy. So data then transformed into information, then transformed into knowledge, and taking action accordingly. So scientific management is using this artificial intelligence with the use of the big data. So what happens with the big data? You gather the information from various sources, and then it will be analyzed and it is managed. So these are given specific names like big data, data analytics, data mining, then robotics, mechatronics, they are all the artificial intelligence tools. Suppose in China, the Chinese government is doing a data mining of each and every individual. What is the data mining of each and every individual and how it will be possible in a country where there is nearly 140 crore population? Is because everywhere, wherever the people are visiting in the public places, everywhere there are cameras. Huge cameras are implanted. For every kilometer there is a camera. Even if you are boarding a bus, when you are boarding a bus at the entrance itself, there is a camera that will capture your face. And that would be forwarded to a big cloud where the perfect profiling of each and every individual will be made. So the government is maintaining the knowledge and information and data about every individual, and that can be used at any time. So suppose we are, even in India also we are trying to do this through something called as the DNA profiling bill. The government is bringing up a new bill, a DNA profiling bill, and that would also be helpful to data profiling of each and of every individual, Government is saying that this is useful for DNA profiling bill will be useful for preventing the crimes. Of course, definitely that will be useful for preventing the crimes and crime control mechanism. But in the future, when this becomes a data mining, government will control every one of us. So this is how the knowledge society is managing the data. Then all this scientifically evolved knowledge is applied in the management in a scientific way. That is how it will produce the rational results. That is one of the requirements of the scientific management. So scientific management will use the artificial intelligence in the human resource management, financial resource management, and also material management. So, ninth question. Artificial intelligence is likely to weaken discretion for professional competence and relational values, which could affect human bureaucrats. Human bureaucrats' relationships with the citizens and citizens' relationship with the state. Comment. So, this is the question which is talking about how artificial intelligence likely to weaken the discretion. Weakening the discretion means reducing the discretionary management by professional competence and rational values, which could affect human bureaucrat relationships. Human bureaucrats will be replaced with the robotic bureaucrats. That is the future of the artificial intelligence. That would change the relation between bureaucracy and the citizens. Citizens' relation with the state, where you have to analyze this concept both positively and negatively. Suppose positively, as I told you already, when human contact with the bureaucracy is reduced, what is the advantage? Corruption is minimized. Discretion of the bureaucrat is minimized. Discretionary management is eliminated. But negatively, what happens? Negatively, where there is a need for compassion towards the weaker sections, this compassion cannot be shown. Because a bureaucrat is supposed to be compassionate towards the people, towards the weaker sections. But a robotic nature of administration will not have that compassionate element. That is the negative aspect of it. Similarly, one more advantage is citizens' relation with the state will also change. Suppose so far we have the tendency to tax evasion, suppose, for example. Tax evasion is possible. But when more artificial intelligence increases, with the use of the big data, all our profiling will be done. When all the profiling is done, you cannot manipulate the state and you cannot blacken the state from your financial transaction. Whatever the financial transaction, either directly or indirectly, or through the binamis or through yourself, every financial transaction will be identified by the state. So it will increase citizens' payment of taxes to the government. Suppose after the adoption of the GST, tax filings have increased. How the tax filing has increased? Because of more technology being used. The more and more technology is used, what happened is more people have to submit their tax profiles. So the citizens' relation with the state has changed. So this is, again, negativity is also there in this. The negativity is people will, when there is a mechanical relation between the citizen and the state, it will affect the emotion of the citizen towards the state. What is that emotion of the citizen towards the state is the patriotism. People may not be patriotic because it will only create a give and take relationship. I am paying the taxes, so therefore you have to give me the services. So this will badly affect the patriotic nature of the citizen. So the two dimensions, positives and negatives of the relation between the bureaucracy and the technology, affecting the relation between bureaucracy and the people. The 10th question, standardization in the WebEx bureaucracy is further strengthened with the use of new technologies. Do you agree? So this question is similar to the one question that we have discussed earlier, that is similarity between MP Follett and Weber's theory. So, because Weber's bureaucracy is intended to standardize and create the predictability, more and more predictability in the administration through the rules and regulations and documentation, and also through various other mechanisms like impersonality, professionalism. They are all standardizing the work procedures. And it is further strengthened with the use of the new technologies, because the new technologies like mechatronics is one example. And the robotics, 3D printing technology. This is further strengthening the standardization of the administration. So since it is an open-ended question like do you agree, there is a counter argument also required to be written. Counter argument means this may not strengthen though it may strengthen the standardization, it will affect the human relations. That should be the counter argument. So you answer these questions today. So next week we discuss the open model questions, open model theories like human relations, behavioralism, participative management, then decision making theory. So those open model theories we will discuss in the next week. So the full answers to these questions I will give you next week, once you write the answers to these questions today.